from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody. Once again to Talking Catholic, the official podcast of the Catholic community of South Jersey. I'm Pete Sanchez with my co-host Michael Walsh. Mike, how are you today?
You know, I've come to realize that the most valuable asset to the podcast you are, Pete, is the opening of the podcast. Because the one or two times I've had to open the podcast on my own, either because you were sick or out of the area, I have fumbled that more than anything else. I can talk for the next 59 minutes, but that first 10 seconds, I have the hardest time starting the podcast.
Well, I'm sure you could do it, Mike. It's just practice. Yeah, practice, man.
You've had, 95 opportunities now? Because this is our 97th episode that we're recording.
It's still the new thing, though. It's easy. Now you jinxed me. The next one, I'm going to flub it.
That's
I know.
Fine. Good. It'll make me feel better if you flub it. So
I'm glad, Mike. Anything I can do to build up my fellow man.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, Pete, where are we today?
We are right now in Atlantic City. Again, it is really, we were here.
This has sort of become our home away from home, this town.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I think we've recorded, of all the things we've done out of the vault, I think we've recorded more stuff in Atlantic City than any other area of the diocese. They're going to start getting jealous soon.
I know. Can we find a vault in Atlantic City then that we can find just,
I'm sure there's some casino vaults that the casinos would just love us to be in the basement of.
Okay, we got to investigate. If anybody knows of any vaults in Atlantic City, let us know. And we're here. It's
Remember, I have a key to the other vault, and there's no guarantee we'll get out of any vaults in this area.
Right. We don't know. And some of those casinos are probably pretty old.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
And those vaults. But yet we're here in Lake City. It's cold, and we did something really. We've had a busy day. Mike.
I would not agree with you, by the way. It's a beautiful day outside. I actually went out and I walked the boardwalk. It was great. We were in town today for two reasons. One, to record this podcast, but two, earlier in the day, our fan favorites, the CFRs, opened up their Father Benedict house up the street from where we are right now, right across the parking lot from St. Nicholas of Tolentine Church. It was a great event. Bishop was down to bless the house, and a number of the I think all of the CFR sisters from New York came down, and a couple of brothers came down with them, and it was great. It was outstanding.
Yeah, it was really nice. That St. Nicholas Church is so beautiful. So that kind of said the music was beautiful. The mass was.
Yeah, had a good turnout from the local population too. It was a well-attended mass for Friday Friday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. People, there's a jitney around here. I think it's free that takes people around, and that's nice to know. Next time I would have done that. I made sure to get.
You got here early instead and found a good parking spot.
Yeah,
whereas I had to traipse all the way across the street from I believe I was parked illegally somewhere I'm not supposed to be parking without paying. So it's a good thing, though, because at least your heart is still pure. You didn't have to do anything illegal. I may have had to park illegally.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I've done that, too. I remember parking legally one time I got it. I didn't get off as lucky as you, though.
I thought I had a ticket, and when I came back, there was a white paper on my dash. And I went, oh man, did I get a ticket? Yeah, that's what I deserve it. No, it was actually a flyer for the Irish pub.
Nice.
Still kept it. I wanted to know what their lunch specials were. Did not go there for lunch, but at the end of the event, I was standing in the parking lot and I overheard that that Bishop Sullivan and Mother.
Mother Claire?
Well, Mother Claire and Mother Lucille, I want to say. Mother Lucille, yeah. They were going up on the boardwalk with a couple of other sisters just to walk the boardwalk from St. Nicholas back to where they're based at St. Michael's up the road. I just walked with them and got some great pictures of a bishop and four sisters walking down the middle of the boardwalk in Atlantic City in December or late November, and just sort of with everything around it. It ended up being like really cool sort of artsy photographs. So hopefully we'll figure out some way of doing something with them somewhere. But it was just, it was nice. And it was a nice walk because the sun was out, so it was very warm. That's why I disagree with you with the coldness of the day. I found it quite warm.
Well, maybe I think the sun had something to do with maybe, the cold air, but the sun
Yeah, it was nice. The sun broke through, and it ended up being very warm on the boardwalk. So a rare opportunity for me to spend a Friday at noon on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. I did not go into any casinos either.
And in November, to have this good weather, too, that you're able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, it's not every day you see a bishop and you see nuns walking the boardwalk.
There were a lot of people turning heads. It was great. But I think that's why the sisters, they're very big into street evangelization, which we had talked about with them before. And they had a ton of people come up and just chat with them, and they talked to Bishop a little bit, and it was really nice. And actually somebody who recognized them was commenting on how great it's been that they've been in town and sort of utilizing the St. Michael's property again, which is I know a lot of locals were very hopeful that when the sisters came to town, they would sort of revitalize that area of the parish, and it looks like they have. So it's good.
Yeah, it's such a great opportunity for evangelization having them here.
Yeah,
and the Father Benedict House was named after Father Benedict Groeschel, who was the founder of the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and was on EWTN. So he was an evangelist in his own right, doing a lot of good work in New York. He's Jersey boy, which I did not realize. So Bishop Sullivan mentioned that. And also Father Andrew Apostoli, who passed away last year, co-founder of the Franciscan Sisters of the Renewal, was remembered because today is the feast of St. Andrew the Apostle.
Yes, it is. That's right.
The first apostle.
Yeah, and Saint Benedict. I keep doing it. It's Father Benedict House. I keep wanting to call it Saint Benedict House. Father Benedict. Someday I'll call it Pope Benedict House. But Father Benedict House. Did you recall what the sisters were saying about how they were going to utilize it?
Refresh my memory.
Well, it's basically being sort of. It has a twofold use. Certain times during the week, they use it to help the needy who come in and find it as a respite area for them, and they're able to sort of they're not doing social service as much as just looking after their soulful well-being by bringing them in and chatting with them and talking to them, and if they're interested, pointing them in the right direction of some services that might be available to them. But it's mostly just to lend an ear and give them some food and some, on a cold day like today, according to you, bring some warmth. But it's also being utilized as a place where the community has an initiative where they have basically missionary disciples, and these are young women who are basically taking, for lack of a better word, a gap year somewhere in their schools, a scholastic life post high school, where they'll come down to town, live there for a year in service to the community, not the community of sisters, but the outside community. So they'll do service work, but at the same time, some of them are also discerning a vocation to religious life. And they've already had a great response. They have 4 of these missionaries living with them now, and I had the opportunity to, because Bishop was blessing Benedict House, I had the opportunity to walk the entirety of Benedict House. There are a lot of rooms to have people come in. So, and apparently a lot of times, sometimes people from the area down here will actually spend the night there and whatnot. Not anybody, but the young women who are discerning a vocation. So it's been a great opportunity for them to do a little bit of evangelizing for religious life.
I was fortunate enough to talk to them at the reception afterwards. They had a little luncheon, and these young women are coming from Nebraska, coming from England, and I think one's even from Australia. And they're just, and I met a woman who is a sister up in the Bronx, who is a young woman, has been there a couple months now, is just professed and is from Austria. Yeah. So it's amazing how these individuals working in the Northeast.
Yeah, they're a very small community. They're teeny, as they say it themselves. I was talking to them. They refer to themselves as the lowest rung of where, in terms of the longevity of their community. Like, they're not an order. They're a community based out of New York, and it's actually based out of the office of the Cardinal in New York. They're not like a global. It's not Vatican sponsored community yet. So it's a regional community. But they've because of this, because of the nature of the community, they have this charism that they seem to attract a lot of attention. So even though they're a baby community.
Yeah. Well, we have to pray for them, and they just do amazing work. It's a blessed day. And now here we're part 2 of our day, Mike. We are at Our Lady Star of the Sea School.
Yes, we are, but you're skipping something before we make that transition. Because we're actually recording this a little bit before it'll go to air, so we don't have a ton of events to go over. By the time you listen to this, you will By the time you listen to this episode, we'll have been the next day. We will be recording the 100th episode, which will go up later in the month. The sisters' Advent Day of Reflection will have already happened on December 8th, even though we're recording this on November 30th. So I think we're going to put this up around December 13th. But there is one event we wanted to touch on.
Yeah, before Greg Coogan, the director of Young Adult Ministry, has my head.
Yes.
Sorry, Greg. Well, this sounds like a really cool event. The Christmas Caroling for Young Adults on December 21st. It's the Friday before Christmas.
By the way, I'm really jealous of this. I hope one of us goes. I may have to go to this event just under the guise of, I love Christmas caroling, but it's hard to find people who want to go Christmas caroling nowadays. I will go under the guise of covering it just so I can hang out and Christmas carol.
Well, I won't be there, unfortunately. I have other plans. Actually, Father Robert Sinatra and I are going to a rock concert with some other family members that night.
Which rock concert are you going to?
We are seeing this band called The War on Drugs.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Well, at least it's still musically inclined.
It is. Yeah, no, it'll be fun.
And you'll be with a priest. So,
and we probably will be
almost
singing
the same as
too.
caroling. Okay.
Yeah. well, I wanted Greg to move this, but he said no. I told him, man, I really wanted to go. I wish I could buy locate. Maybe that can be an early Christmas gift.
By location?
Yeah. Padre Pio had it.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
So
let me know if it works.
I will. Well, you'll know if it works because you'll see me on the 14th. Christmas caroling for young adults. All young adults in their late teens, 20s, and 30s can come out for an evening of Christmas caroling to celebrate the joy of the season with shoppers along Haddon Avenue in Collingswood, which is a beautiful stretch, Mike.
Yeah, I love it.
They're going to gather at St. Teresa of Calcutta's McLaughlin Hall, 101 Lees Avenue at 6 p.m., and then after caroling, returning to the hall for Christmas cookies and hot chocolate. So I think you're sold, Mike.
Yeah, Christmas cookies, hot chocolate, caroling, I'm in. Collingswood, I'm in.
Is there a song that would really get you singing? Is there a Christmas carol that you love?
There are many Christmas carols that I love. The one I love the most is the one I can sing the least because it has the highest range. It's "O Holy Night," which I can never hit that high octave. But I love listening to other people do it, so that's always a treat. And then, I have the same problem with songs that I have with prayers. I can never remember the words. So I'm the caroler that goes along and mouths along until you can remember the lyrics.
I'm the same. I do that too. Yeah, I'm guilty.
Like "O Tannenbaum." "O Tannenbaum's a beautiful song. And then once you get past Tannenbaum, I'm like, I can't remember the rest of the words. Granted, half is it's in German, but I still can't remember it. Or "O Christmas Tree."
Yeah, that's right. I hear "O Tannenbaum," but then there is also... is that the same song?
Yeah, same song. One in English, one in German. There's also "Good King Wenceslas." Can't get past the action. That's the problem. The ones that are titles of the first couple of words, I'm like, oh, I love that song. And then you realize I don't remember the rest of the words.
I know that in that song, "Good King Wenceslas," there's "On the Feast of Stephen," and "The snow lay on the ground deep and crisp and even."
Wow. Excellent job of saying the words. Good job.
Deep and crisp. Yeah.
Good job.
Not going to sing here. But come on out. Christmas caroling December 21st, Friday, 6 p.m., St. Teresa, Calcutta. And call Greg Coogan to RSVP at 856-583-2908. And all this event and more can be found on CamdenDiocese.org. So come on out. And I think now my apologies to Greg. We got that in. And where are we, Mike?
Why are you apologizing to Greg? We got it in.
We did get it in.
Oh, okay. And we're going to get it in next. We'll get it in next week, too. Well, we'll be fine. And we'll probably get it in the 100th. Probably not the 100th episode. But anyway, so now, why are we here?
We are here at Our Lady Star of the Sea School. Thank you so much. We are here with Principal Sue Tarrant and Advancement Director Sister Kathy Nace. How are you two?
We're great, and we're very, very happy that you're here in Atlantic City enjoying our beaches, although it's still cold, and coming to see our wonderful school.
No, this is great. I was a reporter down in Wildwood for a long time. Well, for several years anyway, a long time ago. And I love being down in the shore area after everybody's left. It is my favorite time. So anybody can come here in the summertime, but from late October till, say, late March, that's the time to be in a shore town.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, we both live by the ocean
Yes.
in a touristy area, and it is great to come home and not see the street lined with cars and trying to vie for a parking space.
Yeah. So we will always, and actually we have to apologize. It's taken us so long to get down here. I have to give a lot of credit to Mary Beth Peabody, who really loves this school and has loved working from our school's office. She's been on the podcast several times, and who loves the school and loves working with the two of you, and has been saying, Mike, you guys have to get down and talk to the folks over at Star of the Sea, because they have a lot of really innovative ideas going on. And we're like, hey, we like innovation. We should do that. So thank you very much for inviting us down. I will warn our listeners that there's a chance that you may hear some bells in the background and maybe some announcements at some point, but we'll probably try and take a pause during those. But if you hear anything and something sounds out of sync, that's a reason why. Because it is still the school day, right?
It is still the school day,
There you go.
yes.
We're getting the authentic experience here.
That's right. That's right.
Well, authentic would be if you stood in the middle of the hallway with all of them coming out at you at dismissal. but you'll hear some of the things going on.
That's
True,
funny.
I stand corrected.
Just remember, it's a Friday afternoon, so they're all excited.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
More
they
so
are.
than usual.
So anyway, this is a unique school in the sense that it's an island school. There's not a lot of those in the diocese any longer, but this is one of them. And I'm just curious, Sue, how long have you been at the school now?
I'm in my fifth year.
Fifth year.
Here at the school, and
Okay.
yes, it's and it's very different from any experience that I've had before, because I've always been in a suburban school. So having the opportunity to experience the diversity has been an education for me, number one, and just a truly wonderful experience.
And it's a very unique school in its diversity as well. You have you have an Anglo population, you have an Hispanic population, you have a Vietnamese population as well.
Right.
Yeah,
And an African
and an
American.
African American
African-American,
population. Yeah. So I believe I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's one of the more diverse groupings of any of our schools in the diocese. And when it comes to community, particularly as advancement director. Or as advancement director, sorry, I was pointing in the wrong direction. Sister, sort of crafting a message for each of those groups can be unique, I would think.
It is. Well, I think in general, parents are parents. So regardless of the culture or the community they're coming from, they want what's best for their child. And so that message is consistent throughout. But it's a unique opportunity for parents to really be able to offer their children a multicultural experience coming here. And really, if you spend any time in the classrooms, it's wonderful to see how the students interact. I think the school staff, the office staff do a great job of really kind of addressing the needs of the parents as they come in. A lot of our parents are not native English speakers, and so just working with them to make sure that they have everything they need. The office staff and Sue do a phenomenal job of making sure they have all the support they need to see that their kids can be successful.
And Sister, you've been here how long now?
12 weeks.
12 whole weeks.
12 whole weeks. But I have loved every minute of it, I can guarantee you that.
And I have loved every minute of it as well. It's been a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yeah, I have to imagine. Now, Sister, where did you come from before here?
So before this, I was at St. Rose in Belmar. That's the Central Jersey Belmar in the Diocese of Trenton, not the one in Camden. I was the principal and president at St. Rose High School for 9 years, and I was there a total of 12 years, but as vice principal before that.
So you really only like to work on shore towns? Is that
you
like to be close to the ocean?
Well, interestingly enough, no. My early years were in. My very first mission was actually in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, as a sister of St. Joseph, and then I spent a good number of years at St. Michael's in North Philly,
okay.
and then from there went to North Jersey, and then I've really
So you've
been a Jersey girl for longer than
slowly
not.
making your way east and and down. I like that. That's good. That's good. That's good. And what kind of a population was it in Belmar?
Belmar is a very suburban, fairly affluent community. So primarily we worked on having diversity in our building. So we were fortunate enough in the Diocese of Trenton. There's a wonderful school in Asbury Park, Our Lady Mount Carmel, very similar in population to Star of the Sea. And so we were able to work with them to make sure that their students had the opportunity for a Catholic high school education, which was a great gift for our community. And we also had an international student program. We had students from South Korea and China.
Oh, okay.
But that was, our diversity was not as easily come by.
I think that's not uncommon for many Catholic schools, which makes this a very unique situation here in the sense that you have a very diverse population, and you have a population that used to be primarily Anglo, and that community has moved on, which is why, like all Catholic schools across the country, as people have migrated from one section or another, they see their enrollments decline, and certainly that happened here as well. But you created a rather unique way of altering your educational paradigm here to sort of work with that. So you have something here called blended learning, right?
Right. And so my experience brought to the school, working with the Daily Five. And the Daily Five is, I would say, could be a precursor to blended learning. And we were always very interested in differentiating for the students, a word that's used pretty frequently now. But to honestly do it, you have to put certain things into place, which I have been really fortunate in that my teachers really wanted it and they supported it 100%. So when I went to, move it along, I wasn't really moving along fast enough for them. They really wanted to dive in. So I would say 2 years ago, we really started to intentionally put the blended learning into play. And I went to a workshop in North Jersey to see if we were on the right track and what we were doing. And then last February, I became a facilitator. I went to Arizona for a 3-day workshop and became a facilitator in blended learning. Have not really branched out to too many other places, have done it in the school, and I'm trying to help other Catholic schools to also get up and running and, at least start with aspects of it.
So I think for most people, and the listeners know that I have a background in education. My father was a learning disabilities teacher coordinator for 40 years. My mother was a director of guidance at Gloucester Catholic High School for 30 years. I was a teacher for 1 year. I went to school to be a teacher. I love everything there is about education. And when Mary Beth Peabody said, "Oh, there's this blended learning thing," I went, "What's that?" So,
okay.
So could you give me an idea of what blended learning really is?
Sure. Blended learning really has a lot of different faces. It has applications in high school all the way down to pre-K. And what it really is it's the students having ownership of their education or ownership of their learning. They have control over the time, the pace, and what they're doing. So they really the teachers work in what we would call mini lessons. So they would present a mini lesson on a certain skill to the students, to all the students. And then the students break up and we have a 2-hour English language arts block. And in that 2-hour English language arts block, the children are in groups and move from station to station, which is similar to what centers we would know in education as centers, except that they are very intentional for each child. So each child has a different task based upon the skill level. And so the teacher spends one rotation with with a group of students, and we use guided reading. So we really do not use a textbook series. We use guided reading. And then the students also have a rotation on Chromebooks. And on those Chromebooks are specific applications that is just for each child. Each child works at their own level on what their needs are. There could be a reteaching portion of it, so it's supporting the teacher. And then they would do word work and they would do read to self or read to partner. So they know in the beginning of the day what they're going to do. And they just embrace it completely. And they're so engaged. And I walk down the hall sometimes and think, why are they so quiet? I mean, they're not really quiet, but they're engaged in doing what they need to do. And it also gives them the freedom to be successful because they're working at their individual levels. And we see great progress.
It sounds like, from an outsider's perspective, and maybe people who are listening to this, it almost sounds like a Montessori school sort of scenario. Would that be an accurate analogy? Or
it would be. I would say maybe not quite as hands-on, tactile, because I think in Montessori they use a little bit more of that. But we are trying to infuse certain things to increase that. We just had, the day before Thanksgiving, we had a STEAM day, and all the children worked on one project throughout the school. And it was fascinating. But I think the reason that it was so successful for us on a first try is that they have that experience of learning, which they're asked to be creative. They're asked to put their input in. They're given ownership to make mistakes, or they're given permission, I should say, to make mistakes. And so mistakes and trying things is not new to them.
Yeah. And have parents responded to this, particularly the parents who've been here a little longer and saw that transition? So, I mean, have parents really embraced it?
Well, we've let the parents know. But our parents they believe in us, and they believe that they're putting their children here, and we're going to do what's right. So they don't.
Good afternoon announcement.
Okay, and we just came back from listening to our announcements. For me, it was a nice throwback to the good old days. Yeah. So, Sue, we just wanted to follow up with what we were talking about before.
Right. Well, we were talking about parents, and parents seem to be happy, the ones that we've had interactions with, because their students, we can show them the actual progression, because the diocese uses now STAR assessments. So we're able to really benchmark them in the beginning, and we check their growth at least 3 times a year. But the other advantage that we have with the blended learning, and again, our small numbers, it afford the teachers the ability to send students to other teachers for curriculum that is better suited to their skill level. So, for instance, a 4th grader could be with 5th grader for math, because we also try and keep our schedule the same, so everybody's doing English language arts at the same time, math, so that we can switch them around when they need.
And so the students seem to be pleased, and the parents, seem to be pleased. How were your teachers when you first sort of broached this idea to them?
Well, as I said before, actually they were wonderful. I brought in a teacher from a school where I was principal before, and she came in and she had been doing the Daily 5 for a really long time. So she coached them on that, and none of them, actually 3 of them, had never used reading series before. So going to the guided reading was really natural for them. And then, as I said, the second summer after I went to become a facilitator in blended learning, I came back to them. I said, okay, so this is our plan, and this is what I see happening. And they said, well, we don't want to wait a year to start. We want to integrate the technology now. And part of that was also finding programs and piloting programs that would give them the best, would support their program the best and what they were actually trying to do. So we were lucky enough to pilot 2 programs. They used those. We chose them for this year, and we were off and running. And they really like it now because the students have been doing it. So say the 2nd grade teacher gets students who are used to it. And if we get new students, they fit right in. And I was in a 4th grade a week or so ago, and I said to the student, do you realize this is so different from the way I was educated? And they looked and they said, we love it. We could never go back.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important too.
That really is. And when you can get buy-in across all 3 of those elements, I think if you've struck gold, if nothing else. And how does it sort of interact with the standardized testing? Have you noticed good results?
I would have to say, honestly, in our standardized testing, not probably as much. It doesn't really pinpoint. It gives us a good baseline, and it usually supports what we see in the other testing, in the STAR assessments, and what we see just on observation. But I do think that the standardized testing, now they're not really used to it. They're used to the smaller chunks of testing that the STAR assessment gives, or other assessments that we give, that sometimes the long, a day or 5 days of doing it gets to them a little bit.
Oh, well,
but we use that data. We still use that data, and it's important as well.
Well, I still remember. I clearly remember from both in grade school and in high school, anytime we had to do standardized testing, and it just always threw your schedule off. It never felt normal. It always felt like an unusual aspect. I hated it. I was decent at it. I was better than middle, but it always seemed so foreign to the learning process.
And our form of assessment is different, or our feeling on assessment is different. We do a lot of formative assessment, daily assessment. The teachers, the one thing you asked about how the teachers felt about it. They love it. They're committed to it. But they will admit, and they'll admit to anyone who's going to, implement it in their classroom, it's a lot of work because every day they're checking every student to see where they need to be and what they need to do the next day. But again, it's for the students, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
So.
And Sue talked about, the STEAM day and the students really being able to, it was a natural day for them in a sense because they take ownership. And I know as development director, part of my job is enrollment, and just even walking around the building as a new member of the community, one of the things that struck me immediately is how articulate the kids are about their own learning.
Really?
They really do have a sense of where they are and what they're doing. Most times you go into a classroom and you say to a kid, well, what are you learning? And they kind of shrug their shoulders and look at you like, I don't know, look up on the board. But for our students, they really can tell you what they're learning. They look right, they can take you to the books that they're reading, and they really speak to what's happening in the classroom for them. And they're able to say, and what I'm doing, and this is how it relates to what the person next to me is doing. They may not be exactly the same thing, but they have a sense of what it is that's unique to them and what is general to the whole group. It's been very interesting to see we're talking first, second, third graders here that really can speak to what is their educational experience.
Right, and I the only thing that I do tell the teachers every once in a while, I advise them to give them something perhaps a little more standard as an assessment because they can't always they can't get away from that. If they go somewhere else or as they get older and as they're going off to high school, they are going to have some more, I want to say paper and pencil assessments than what we might be doing. But it's still, it just affords us the opportunity to keep them on a steady track of improvement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds like it's really providing them a sense of pride and self-confidence. In order, they're taking ownership of their own work, and they're seeing how they do. Mm-hmm. And also they're seeing, like you were saying, the difference in what their classmates are learning. And then they can learn something in that sense too, the diversity or the differences that them and their classes have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I first broached this with Bill Watson, our director of curriculum, I said and we've had many conversations about it, but I said to Bill, all right, I really, really believe in this. I've seen the Daily 5 work, and I really believe the blended is going to work. I said, but what if it doesn't? He said to me, and I think this was really important, he said, Sue, they are going to do at least as well as they would do with conventional, and they're probably going to do much, much better. So it is definitely worth it for you to implement it and to go with it. And thank goodness with his support, and the diocese, the Office for Catholic Education has been wonderfully supportive in all that we've been doing.
Yeah, they are very proactive in that regard. And Bill is a prior guest on I think he's been on the podcast twice, as a matter of fact. He's also my go-to voiceover guy now. He's got these great golden pipes, and it's like, I need a minute or two of script from you. Can you go up to the studio or the vault? No, it really is, and I do I very much. I fully admit that I have a preference for progressive education. That maybe it was because it was always the one-off things that were the things that interested me the most when I was in school. I had the opportunity with a couple of friends of mine in 8th grade. We were entered into a contest, and we basically were allowed to write a book. And for one quarter during English class, we went off and wrote a book. Now, the downside of that is I don't know how to diagram a sentence. However, I've learned that I didn't really need a heck of a lot of that in my professional career. I didn't really need it again until my son came home last year and says, "Dad, I got to diagram a sentence." I was like, "Well, hopefully, Mommy can teach you and I." But it was a great opportunity to sort of work as a collective group. We actually produced a really kind of cool looking book, and it was an interesting idea, and I'll never forget that opportunity. And certainly there was lots of playtime in all that writing, but it's a creative experience. There should be playtime. And my son, where he goes to school now, you had mentioned centers, and I was like, that's the first time I'd heard it referenced before, and that was a concept that I never really understood until he went to school. But I always like anything that can bring something interesting into the school. And you'd mentioned you had the STEAM, which is sort of a STEM plus arts, right?
Yes.
So do you try to do a number of STEAM things, or I know some people even have STREAM now with a little bit of religion
in there. So we're working up to STREAM. So our first day was a STEAM day, and then so the students, it was, as Sue said, it was a school-wide activity. So 1st through 8th grade worked on the same concept. They worked in pairs, and the students had a pizza box, and they were to use the pizza box and any other recycled materials or found materials or things that were lying about the classroom to create either an original game or recreate a more traditional board game or arcade game. And then they presented to their classmates, got feedback, and then had an opportunity during the course of the day to actually play the games. And that was to lay the groundwork for an activity that we'll be doing during Catholic Schools Week on our next stream day. And it's based off of something called the Cardboard Challenge. There's a great video, documentary really, called Kane's Academy. It's about a little boy in Los Angeles who his dad owns an auto repair shop, mostly run online now, and he was off on summer break, and dad was the primary child caregiver, so he basically said to the kid, go entertain yourself. And the boy built an entire arcade out of cardboard boxes and really clever solutions to, getting a hook for a claw machine and things like that. But he never had anybody come play his arcade games. And so until one day this young guy shows up and was looking for a piece for his car and, bought the pass. So it was $2 for 500 games. And was so taken with the story and the kid that he came back. He was a filmmaker and did this documentary on the boy. And it went viral. And there was a whole, 1,000 people came out the following Saturday to play at the arcade. So since then, schools have taken that documentary and kind of used it as a starting point for this cardboard challenge, where students are, kind of challenged with the concept of creating an arcade game using completely recycled materials. But it's great to see the kids problem solving, as we were walking around the school that day, trying to figure out where you need to put the bumpers on a cardboard on the lid of a pizza box, so that if you're doing like Plinko, where how the chips are going to fall, do you need the bumpers here, and do you want the cups out that far, and kind of those placement issues and things like that. It was really interesting to see them interacting with their partners, but then getting feedback from their peers and classmates as well.
And one teacher said to me that I was looking and I was kind of commenting on the choice of the partners, just knowing the children pretty well. And she said, no, they chose each other. And it's children who wouldn't normally, not friends, or who wouldn't normally work together. And part of the exercise as well is, our Catholic school, number one, we have great, our academics, I think, are wonderful. But we also have to remember we're a Catholic school, and why are we here? And so part of that is socialization and working with other people. And so that's why that as well is so important, and them having to work out who's going to, who's kind of going to be charged, who's going to be the gopher, how are we going to work together to come up, which they need in our world today.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely true. And I really appreciate that, because I don't think that was a big element of my education background as a child. And I think it's still why, and Pete might attest to this, I don't play well with others still. It's like very, very soft, right, Pete? It's like
no comment.
Okay. But we were talking a little bit about background, Sister Kathy. We talked a little about your educational background professionally. Sue, where you said you've been here 5 years? Where did you sort of?
I've been here 5 years, but I restarted my teaching career back in Cheshire, Connecticut, in the Archdiocese of Hartford. We opened up a school. So we had the wonderful ability, and that's probably why I'm so, I don't want to say forward thinking, but I always like something new, because we opened that school with a pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, and added a grade every year. And it's still one of the largest schools in the Archdiocese of Hartford. And so everything was new. And so I'm used to implementing and back then we had read, write, and type, and that was our claim to fame, and it was great. Then I was there, I believe, 13 years as teacher and as principal. And then I went to Yardley, Pennsylvania, and I was principal of St. Ignatius in Yardley. And then I was vice principal, at Mary Mother of the Redeemer in North Wales. Okay. So, and then that brought me, a number of reasons brought me here. I didn't really think I would be semi-retired living at the shore and having the opportunity to be principal of a school. But one day someone in the gym down in Cape May said to me, do you know there's that Sister Seamus is retiring? And I said, no, I didn't. My husband and I took a ride up here. We went to Mass here. We met Father Joe, and he didn't know at that time I was even, for whatever reason I was looking, and I said, I'll put my hat into the ring.
Yeah.
And that's how I
That's
came
how you
here.
ended up here. There you go. And Sister Seamus is certainly well known in this area. As a matter of fact, you still have the Sister Seamus walk, right?
We do.
Yes, in May.
In May, that's just right. That's always I always enjoy that one. First of all, it's Seamus. It's a good Irish name. Why wouldn't I appreciate that? Sister Kathy, we talked about your professional career, but we started this podcast, Pete and I, talking about vocations. We were up the street with the CFRs. I'm curious, what was your road to a vocation?
So I grew up in Philadelphia. I St. John's in Manayunk, and I had the Immaculate Heart Sisters there. And then I went to Cecilian Academy, which was an all-girls school run by the Sisters of St. Joseph in Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. And I just loved it. I love both of my experiences, but my experience at Cecilian and meeting the Sisters of St. Joseph. So I always tell the story that when we were freshmen in high school and we were walking past the convent one morning, my best education in high school came from the commute to school. So for me to get to school, it took 2 buses and a trolley, and I learned more on the 23 trolley than probably I did in the classroom. But I was walking with a crowd of friends from the trolley over to school, and so we were passing by the convent. We were all talking about what we wanted to do someday, and when the question came to me, my friends, I said I didn't know, but in the back of my head, I heard this little voice that someday I wanted to be a Sister of St. Joseph. Now, I never said that out loud to anybody, but not at that time. And I thought I was getting away with everything. And I think I was a junior. I got a detention for not having a book, which we were told that we didn't have to bring to class. I would just like to clarify.
Okay, sure, of course.
So Sister said, don't bring this book, and I didn't bring the book. And then the next day she wanted to use it, and I didn't have it. So I got a detention, but I didn't want to fight with her. So my friends on my behalf went to her and said, well, you can't give her a detention. You told her not to. You told us not to bring the book, and she's going to be a nun someday. And I'm like, how did you all think? What made you think that? So I was horrified to think my friends had figured this out. But after a lot of conversation with my parents, we agreed I would go to college and work for a little while. So I graduated from high school, went to Chestnut Hill College. So I always like to tease the sisters I'm a real Chestnut Hill graduate because I graduated before I entered the community and not on the 14 years of Saturdays that it took the rest of them. And then I taught for a year in North Wales. Actually, I was a lay teacher in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia for 1 year at St. Rose of Lima in North Wales. And then I began my formation with the Sisters of St. Joseph. So that was 29 years ago. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, yeah, we've had a lot. We've somehow, there are 3 things we talk about on the podcast with some regularity. I think we've gotten good at this, Pete. We talk to DREs and youth ministers a lot. We talk about vocations a lot. Yeah. And, well, actually, we just kind of talk about nothing a lot. But that's a different story altogether. And food. We do talk about food quite a bit as well. But we always like coming back to, what drew somebody into what they ended up doing. And I'm curious, so, what was it about education that I went to college to be a teacher, and I thank God that didn't work out because I went in a completely different area, and it was probably for the best since I don't play well with others. But what sort of brought you into education?
I think, honestly, was my elementary experience
Really?
and the sisters. And I liked to volunteer. We had a special education CCD program. So when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I volunteered for that. And I loved working with the young children. And then I entered for my undergraduate with special education. So, of course, I fell in love with that. But when I worked in special education until I had my family, and I was lucky enough to stay home with my children until we opened up St. Bridget. And I loved teaching. I just loved being with the children. And again, that silly, innovative, spirit is there. And I remember Sister Loretta Francis in the Archdiocese of Hartford bringing me in and saying, okay, you're ready. I said, I'm ready for what? She said, you're ready for administration. She said, and I said, but my kids are still young and everything. She said, don't worry. I know you can do it. I'm like, okay. And I guess that's the way you coerce people into doing things. You're sure that they can do it. So she said to me, is there anything that I need to worry about with you in doing this? I said, yes, paperwork. And I said, I'm abysmal at getting paperwork back to you. And she said, well, that must be because you've got so many ideas in your head and you can't do it. So I said, she had it the same way your friends
the nuns can sell it.
Yeah, her friends knew that Sister Kathy was going to be a sister, and Sister Loretta knew that I was going to be in administration. And then when I got into administration, I liked it, but I was a little bit sad because I loved, being in the classroom with the children. But then it became really challenging. And I love a challenge, and I still got to interact with the children, and in a way, I got to make sure that they were getting the best that they could get. Yeah.
So. That was something that both of my parents really loved being able to do, and I have to admit, for all of my mockery of my brief educational career, the year I was a teacher was one of the happiest years of my life. I was mid to late 20s, 27 maybe. Definitely not. I was, definitely not mature enough to be a teacher at that point as a dumb dude from South Jersey. But the bug has been in me ever since. And I don't know if I'd ever go back to school again. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but I still have a dream to be a college professor, not a full, just an adjunct, teach a couple classes, stuff like that. Because I do love the interaction and working with people, and particularly with people. And I mean at all levels, that really have a genuine desire to learn more. And it certainly sounds like this kind of a program here at Our Lady Star of the Sea really encourages kids to be invested in their education and not just, I'm sure that there are kids that will sit there and twiddle their thumbs. It's just the nature of being a kid in a school. But it sounds like you have very invested students.
Well, and we also have programs, for our older students as well. They didn't kind of grow up with the blended learning, and they still have to be prepared for high school. So we try and infuse different things into their curriculum, like we have Judge Nugent comes and teaches creative writing to our 8th graders 2 days a week, and we also had an essay contest, which was pretty publicized. They wrote on a very controversial subject, and they did a really wonderful job. We also have a local architect who comes and they infuse history and architecture, and he works with the 7th graders 1 day a week. And we have another retired mom who likes to come in and do Bible stories with the students and, act them out, make it real. So we're really fortunate that the community as well is so involved in the school. I can't imagine, how we would do it without their support. Yeah.
And are all your students from the island, or do they come in from elsewhere?
We have students primarily from the island. The majority of our students will come, but we do have students who come in from the mainland, Pleasantville.
EHT.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
That's great.
Has it been a challenge with Atlantic City the last few years with the Superstorm Sandy and the casino industry?
Well, again, so I'm coming in and learning the community. So I would say the answer to the question short is yes. The short answer is yes. But I think the reality of Catholic education today is most families in general question, can they afford the commitment to Catholic education? And it's not that they don't see the value or have the desire, but they question their ability to afford Catholic education. And so certainly I think for our families, the effects of Superstorm Sandy and the kind of the bottoming out of the casino industry in Atlantic City in previous years has had an impact on the community here. But Sue and we're very blessed to have a number of benefactors who really do take a tremendous interest in the school and making sure that we are able to offer financial aid and assistance to our families. And so we have a cocktail reception that's the Gormley reception, sponsored by former Senator Bill Gormley, which raises over $50,000 each year to provide tuition assistance. We've just started a new partnership with the Allen Trust Foundation, which is providing an additional $25,000 a year for tuition assistance to our families. And so we are fortunate in that sense. And with the kind of the redevelopment, the new hope for Atlantic City and the kind of the change that seems to be coming, I think there's an opportunity for new families moving into the area to really get to know Star of the Sea. It's the 110th year of the school, which is remarkable when you think about Catholic education. Just the really what this building, literally, if the building could talk, what it has seen.
Yeah.
And we have to trust that it's really gone through a number of transitions already, and this is just another version of a transition that it has experienced already. And so I think Sue and what the teachers do here every day is just remarkable, and we're very blessed because we do have, and we continue to look for people who want to partner with us to make sure that we're able to provide the resources families need to be able to choose to be here.
And one thing I did not mention is that we have a designated special education class and a special education teacher
wonderful.
and aide. So we are able to accept students with IEPs, which is really great. But we also say because we're so differentiated and our classes are relatively small, that they transition between the regular classroom and the special education classroom, whatever, again, is best for them individually. So it varies.
So we're just about to wrap up, but we were talking briefly earlier about we always like to plug things. We usually plug things at the beginning. Is there anything you'd like to plug as we're coming to a close?
So yeah, we have a lot of it. Well, we are it's the end of November, so we're looking forward to the Advent and the Christmas season. So we have our primary grades in the 1st through 4th grade are getting, or pre-K really through 4th grade, are getting ready for Christmas around the world. So the students in those classes take 3 countries each, and they do some research about the Christmas traditions related to that culture, and they share that among the primary grades. So there will be an assembly on December 19th where the students will share what they have learned about the cultures that they've studied, and then they make food, or their parents make food and based on those cultures, and send it in. So after they have their presentations or songs or whatever it is they're however they're presenting, they get to enjoy the food of that culture as well. And we have the nativity,
A very long-standing tradition.
Yes.
The Christmas pageant, and that's our it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, 8th graders, choir, and they after the homily in the Christmas Eve Mass, the 5:30 Christmas Eve Mass, the children enact the nativity, and the choir helps with their singing, and the 8th grade does the reading, so that the little guys do the acting.
Yes.
And we had someone call today to ask when it was, because she said, my daughter's coming home for Christmas and she really wants to go to this. So it's definitely a long-standing.
I'll be honest. I think I was always in the Christmas plays growing up. I love Christmas presentations at grade schools. I really do. I'm probably the only parent whose son goes, and I'm like, sign me up. When do we watch? And I love them. I love them so much because I just have such fond memories when I was a kid.
I was Joseph in the play. At the very end, we did a musical at Queen of Heaven, and I came in at the very end because usually you follow the same format. There was a pageant, there was a Christmas play, people singing, acting, and then at the very end, the Holy Family came out, and I was Joseph with Mary and Jesus.
I could see you as Joseph.
Yeah.
And they had a metal staff. They just pulled out.
But you'll never find more sincere and enthusiastic participants than little kids at Christmas pageants.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll never, ever forget it, just like you never, ever forgot that.
Yep.
And so, again, going back to, we are a Catholic school, so we're proud that that's something that we can keep as a tradition.
Yes.
I can still sing every song that I sang at the Christmas. I'm not kidding.
No.
It's weird. It's just stuck in my brain. Beautiful.
Nope, I can't sing any of them, but that's okay.
When is the pageant? When is the nativity?
We do one for the school on the last day, which I believe is the 21st.
21st of December, right.
And we're doing it early because we have an early dismissal, like 9 o'clock in the morning. And then the next time is Christmas Eve night. They do it at the 5:30 Mass.
I love that.
5:30 Mass.
I love
cool.
that. That's such a great idea. That is wonderful. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for letting us come down and chat with you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Wow,
really, thank you for being here today.
No, and thank you, Mary Beth Peabody, for making sure that we actually made it down here. She had a pitchfork behind us, like, go down and talk with these people, please.
Oh my goodness! Anybody who wants to learn anything about, or come see the school, please come.
And it is a beautiful school, and it is a very nice area of the town. You're right behind Our Lady Star of the Sea Church, just a few blocks from St. Michael's Church, just a few blocks from the ocean. So, and for all those people who love coming to the shore like I do in the winter months, come by and say hi.
That's right.
So if I can just say, I just want to direct Sister Kathy and Sue. I'm coming only through Atlantic City the last couple of years, getting to know this place, and it just makes me so happy to see the sisters, the church, and the school now. I've been able to experience this evangelization here of Catholic values, and that's so important. And I'm just, Atlantic City sorely needs your work right now. So keep up the good work. And
one thing I didn't mention, which I really have to, began as a Sister of Mercy school, and we're still lucky enough to have 2 Sisters of Mercy on our staff.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I love my son, I'm happy to say, has sisters at his school too, and that is without a doubt my favorite thing in the world. I grew up, we had Dominicans at my school. He actually goes to the same school that I went to 40 years ago. But and now there's a new group of sisters in there, Franciscan sisters, and I think that really does add a certain level when religious women are there in the school. So thank you for being here, Sister Kathy.
Thank you.
Well, we probably don't have any more time, but when Sister Kathy came as a Sister of St. Joseph, we had the Sisters of Mercy, we had the Franciscan Sisters of Renewal, who come and do adoration and do things with our students, and now we're getting some Latino sisters to also come and work in the parish. And I said, well, we're a multicultural school, we might as well be a multicultural,
That's right.
religious.
Exactly.
That's right.
Each community has its own charisms. Bring them in.
Exactly.
That's a good point. All right. Well, thanks again for sitting with us, and thank you to everyone who downloaded the podcast and take a listen to it. Remember, if you're hearing this early enough, we still have our 100th podcast coming down the road. But otherwise, I got some ideas for year 3 of the podcast. Can you believe that, Pete? We're going into year 3 soon.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready?
I'm not ready for the new. It's crazy. This year blew by.
It did. And this was a great year for podcasts. We didn't have a lot of duplicates. We made it out of the vault a lot. So we'll keep it up for 2019.
And everybody, I guess this will go up right before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure out when it goes up. When you people listen to it, you listen to it. It's fine. It's a podcast. It's not like it's...
Yeah.
All right.
It's evergreen.
All right, Pete. Well, thanks for joining us again and setting all the stuff up. All right.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.